Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Tuesday. It's October 20th. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and a little easier today. It really like it was going to be a range day, but we really trended up here, really from mid-morning up until 1 o'clock or so, and then we sold off after. I mean, in the big picture, this is a range. And I would just say we were really in a range until we broke out here, and it quickly failed and came back inside the range. So, but at the same time, really from 10 o'clock till late in the afternoon, we traded we traded up for the most part. So a good bit of this day was an uptrend. But at least the good thing about today is the trends were easy to find. Um, even though they reversed and so forth, they were fairly easy to find. This early one, I wasn't too sure about if this was going to be an overshoot or if this was a midline and we were going to go higher. But when we turned down here, it was pretty obvious that we had an overshoot here, and so you had to adjust for that. But the way I originally played this was I pulled this up here, and you can see the midline across those highs. And if we'd have went higher, and you can see prices playing that, and if it had went on higher, then you would assume this is a two-tiered channel. But when it turned back down and then was going the other way, it was pretty obvious. Really right about here, when we turned back down hard like this, it's pretty obvious this is a channel and we had an overshoot. And that leads to the reversal. Then we got a channel working down, and we bounced off the lows, and then we continued to trade up. From this point on, you had to be a little careful, but this trend line's obvious. It confirmed it here and came back into play here, and you can clearly see the midline and the upper side. You get a break. We tried to make a new high, but this trend line holds here, and we sell off. And so it's really just a big range day, but we broke much higher right here, and you had to be careful. Right in here, you might have been thinking range, but you had to play this trend channel out first. And so I played the trend channel, and you might have taken a short here if you got a good setup. There's a second entry short right here. When we get to it, I'll show it to you, but it's not a very good signal bar. It's kind of a neutral bar, so I didn't take it. And then there's a failure here, but you're right into the EMA, and the failure needs to be below, and so it's just not a very good setup. We'll talk about that when we get to it, but I'm going to back out. We'll talk about the trades. And one thing before I get to this, NinjaTrader has offered us a group discount on a lifetime license purchase. There is a caveat or a catch. We have to send them at least 5 people. We've got a couple of people that are already saying, hey, I'm interested in it because I want the $100 discount. But if we can get 5 people that say, hey, and they've only given us a week here to do this, and so we don't have a lot of time to come up with this. So if you're listening to this video and you're interested in $100 off a lifetime license, you can come in with our group, whether you're a member of our premium section or even if you've ever bought anything from us. It doesn't matter. I'm willing to offer it to all of you to try to help out the members we do have. So if anybody's interested in a lifetime license, NinjaTrader license, and that is a multi-broker, although the multi-broker is a little bit of a quotation marks there these days because there is a limited number of brokers you can use, but you can use it with any of the ones they'll offer you, basically. So you can't use it with any broker you want, just any broker that they offer. And I don't know exactly which. There's 2 or 3 they offer now. I think they'll let you trade with IB, Dorman, Phillips Capital, and there might even be another one, maybe TD Ameritrade. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on any of that. Only thing I can tell you is if we send them 5 people the next few days, each of you can get a $100 discount. So if there's anybody listening to this video that would like to that knows they want to buy a license, don't send me an email unless you're 100% sure that if I send your name in, you're going to purchase something from them. But send me your name and your email address to my email address, and I will put the names and emails together. I will send it to NinjaTrader, and you can get your $100. You can go sign up and ask for your $100 discount, and they'll honor it. So my email address is mac@priceactiontradingsystem.com. All one word, priceactiontradingsystem.com. and there's no S at the end. It's just system. PriceActionTradingSystem.com. It's Mac at PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and there's a link in the description area. I put it in all the descriptions to down below the video here in the description area. There's a link to our website, and there's a contact form there that'll come directly to me as well. So if you forget or can't find it, go to the website. It's there, PriceActionTradingSystem.com. So, but don't dilly-dally around. If you're interested in this, get to me right away, because they made this offer a couple of days ago, and it's only good for a week. So I'd like to see, and we do have a couple of members that are already interested. So I'd like to see us send them 10 or 20, because the more we send them, the more they're apt to give us more discounts, and maybe even some bigger discounts. So this is just our first shot. They finally agreed. I've been negotiating with them for months and months to get this, and they finally agreed to do this. But it's just a short-term window, and I think what they would like to see is just proof that we're going to send them a lot of people. And unfortunately, the way our system works is people trickle in over time. We don't usually just have a group of people standing there all wanting to join at one time. Most of our members have already joined, or they're trying to save their money up, or they're not ready to commit to $1,000 investment yet, or whatever. So it makes it kind of hard to get a group of people up at one time within a week, the way the way people trickle in to our group. So I'm throwing this out to anybody that watches the video. So send me that email with your name and your email address, and saying, yes, I commit, and I want to buy the license with the $100 discount, and I'll send your name in, and you'll be able to qualify. So anyway, I wasted a bunch of time there, but that's important. And I'd like to see some of our members that are ready to sign up be able to get the discount, and I'd like to be able to offer further discounts and maybe bigger discounts. So the more people we bring in, I mean, there's power in numbers, and we do have another broker that we get some discounts that I only offer that out to our group members. But at some point I might open that up, but to anybody that watches as well. But for now, that's just for our members. And with this NinjaTrader deal, I'm willing to open it up to anybody, even if you're not a true member of our group. If you just watch our videos, you're welcome to jump in on this. So anyway, just something I'd like to do for the viewers as well. But anyway, let's talk about the trade. 7 o'clock came just as this bar was forming right here. And I marked this one. It's not a great setup. Notice that we had a trading range here, and we broke out, and then you have a first entry and then a second entry, and it fails. We're probably going to turn lower here. So if you can find a way to get in this trade, it technically broke lower here, but that was before 7 o'clock. So it was over in here before 7 o'clock came. So once it broke lower again here, you could drop a limit order in, or if it was before this bar, let's just see when that bar closed. That bar closed at let's see, that's 655 basically right there when that bar closed. Make sure I'm on the right one. Yep, so 7 o'clock came during this bar, and it basically closed right at 7 o'clock. So, okay, I had a small interruption there, and I think we were still talking about this trade. Technically, it was a failed second entry long. When you try to go high, go up 3 times there, you're looking for, it was a failed breakout. So I like going short right there. If you can find a way to get in that one tick below that, you may have to use a limit order, and it probably would have failed because this bar comes back again before it goes lower. So, or you might have even waited on it to break this bar and dropped your limit order, but I don't know if you'd have gotten filled. I don't think that one would have come back enough. Maybe it does, but that's just an option. If you could get in that trade, great. That was a great move back. I mean, generally they don't fall all the way to the other side of the range that quick. And you could see the early range here. It's pretty clear where the resistance was, pretty clear where the support was. And we run down and we get a little failed breakout. There's a high or low right here. You were probably still looking for a short at this point. So I don't think I would go long. You don't have a lot of room there anyway, and you're still below the EMA. So I think you just have to sit tight, and then it's just going sideways here. There's a failed second entry short right here, but notice it never triggers really. It just keeps going lower. And I don't think you want to go long here yet either because it's still congestion. It's a little away from the EMA, but at this point, you know, this was a pretty strong move. You might get another leg, or you're probably at least going to try to test that low. But notice what happens. You get a failed breakout. I marked that one green because you probably ought to wait on a lower high. But look how far we are away from the EMA. You're way away from this. If you drew a line off those first two, it matches up there. So there's a good chance if you bring that down, that's where it's going to bounce down here too, if it gets out of this range. And this one turns back down. Here's your higher low, another great signal bar. That's the better entry. Quick, easy move. And then you get the failed break lower here. There's not a lot of evidence that we're going higher, but if you drew this line up here and drag it down and it bounces right there, there's a good, and you can clearly see it's fitting off the midline right in there. So there's a good chance this is here. And now a lot of you newbies, you're probably thinking, how in the heck can he see that? But with time and experience, you'll see this stuff. And so notice there's two legs down, a failed break out of this support, a bounce where you're expecting a possible trend line based on drawing it off the highs, and fairly decent signal bar. And you got plenty of room back to the EMA, plenty of room back to here. And then it runs back up and turns back down right there. I marked this one again too because it's another lower high right in the support. Nice bearish bar. It doesn't go very far before it turns. It's tempting to go long right there because that's probably going to trap some shorts, and you're probably going to get another leg up like that one. You can see there's two legs up right there. So it's tempting to go long, but I just think it's too risky going long right into that resistance right there. And you can see the two legs up. So I'd skip that one. If you want to be really, really aggressive, maybe you go long right there. And then we just start going. Now you've just gotten in another range here. And then finally it fails out the bottom, and there's actually a second entry long on that. And again, it bounces off this trend line and confirms it. So if it breaks higher right there, we're probably going higher. And sure enough, it runs up here. And this is where, when it breaks out here, it's hard to know if that's going to be, if this is actually a midline or if this is an overshoot, because it continues to stay up there. Usually it'll break out and come back in real quick. And if it stays up there, there's a good chance it could be a midline and we're going to make a measured move, but it doesn't happen and we get quickly back in here. So then it's obvious it's probably an overshoot. So pull your line back down instead of having it like this is the way I had it. And you can see it looks like it might be going to go higher. But when it doesn't, just pull it back down to where you had it. And you can see that's an overshoot. And I don't think you want to go short up here. But when it comes back down here and gives you a second entry long, notice that eye, first entry, second entry, right at the key entry point. Nice signal bar, way away from the EMA. Take that trade. Quick, easy move. There's a higher low here, but you can see that's congestive. 1, 2, 3, 4, and a couple of them don't have any bodies or real small bodies. Just wait, and then you get a failed second entry short there, and both of those bounce off that trend line. I like going long right there on the failure. It's good for a scalp. It doesn't get anything more, and then it's down again, and then it's back up again, and then next thing you know, we're going lower. But draw that trend line right off that high across that first swing right there, like so. And when it confirms it right there, and it actually breaks higher and turns down, that's what you call an engulfing bar. This bar is completely outside of the bar to the left of it, so it completely engulfs it. We call that an engulfing signal bar. It breaks higher, turns down, and goes out the other side. That's a lower high, so we'd be looking for a possible entry there if that trend line gets confirmed. So if you're going to enter this one, it has to be one tick below that bar right there. You can't enter down here because the signal bar is too weak by then. So, and it's too big. Your entry would be one tick below it. When it breaks higher and starts to turn down, you're going to anticipate, hey, if it breaks lower, that's a lower high, and I'm looking for prices to go lower here. So I might put my sell stop one tick below that bar and see if it gets triggered, and it does, and it triggers you into that trade, and off it goes. And you actually get another lower high right here, which is a failed second entry long. It doesn't quite get back to the EMA, which makes it a little bit questionable, but we still got plenty of room to go the downside. And so you might go short right there. It's a little aggressive, but it's right off that key entry point, and there's still plenty of room. And you can see that turns out to be a great trade. Runs all the way down to the other side and then bounces. You might have thought about going long down here at the lows, but that's congestion. You don't see any rejection right there. It does end up taking off. I don't recommend that trade. If you want to be super aggressive, you might enter there. And the reason you're getting congestion is because prices, there's still a lot of sellers chasing this, but most of your smart traders know it's just a matter of a moment till we're going to snap back here, especially with the overnight lows being down here, or being right in there. So it's just a matter of time till this thing bounces, and it could tick lower again before it goes up, and that's the danger in it. But sometimes it's worth being a little aggressive and risking a couple of ticks here to try to get this trade, because if you catch this, this is a major low for the day. In other words, we don't get any, we're only straight up for the next till 1 o'clock, and this is at 10 o'clock. 3 hours of going straight up. And if you can catch that with a runner, which you would have got a runner there, so that's why I recommend those breakouts, sometimes those failed breakouts or those bounces at the important lows. I'm not going to mark that one, but you heard me talk about it. You heard me explain it. And then of course we come up here and you get a first entry, and then you get a second entry short. The problem with this one is, notice there is a trend channel. You do get a break and a new high. The problem is it's not back to the key entry point. And it's kind of in the middle of no man's land here. So you got to be careful taking those. It's still a good second entry. It's still with the trend. So if you take it, it works, but you don't get much more than that out of it. The key is just making sure you got enough room to, and then again, this is another engulfing bar. I think this one is engulfing. Yep, it breaks higher, it turns down, and if you wait and go short one tick below it, you don't have a whole lot of room left. But if you take it as engulfing, there's enough room to get out of there. It's a little aggressive too. But notice we come back here and you make a double test of that low and you get another second entry long. So you may take that trade, but notice what happens. It doesn't trigger until here. So really you're triggering on that inside bar. And so it's a little bit risky then by that point. You still might take that trade because it's a triple test there, and those don't fail very often. But it does come back on a, notice that new low, and you get a first entry and a second entry. So there's a failed second entry short, and not only do you have a double test, you come back and test it one more time. And I think, and a lot of times what will happen is the smart traders just aren't going to take this trade. It's a little bit too aggressive for them. And, you could argue for that to be green for that matter. But when it comes back and tests it again, people have a lot more confidence. Hey, we've tried now 1, 2, 3, 4 times to go lower, and it's bounced every time. We're probably going to at least go test these highs. And so really you probably could flip-flop these two right here like so. That's probably the way it should be. Or no, I had it right. Or did I? I'm losing my mind here. Did I have it right the first time? Or did I just not flip-flop them after all? I don't think I flip-flopped them. So that's probably the way it should look right there. It takes off. And then, of course, you're working back down here, and you come back to the trend line. You don't quite get there, and you make your break, and then you pull down here, and you get your close outside. You make a attempt at a new low, and it bounces right off the key entry point. And that's a decent signal bar. I like going long there. It's a little aggressive because it's not a perfect setup, but we're probably going to go higher there. And of course, this runs straight across all the way up to the other side of the channel. And then I don't think you want to go short up there. It's a long way. You do get a close outside and a new high all in one bar, but that's another one you could argue for it to be green, but I'd wait because that's a pretty strong move. And you get a lower high here, but it's right into the midline, right into the EMA, and of course you see it bounce. Now you might look at that as a failure, but again, this is an uptrend. I'm going to wait. That's a pretty good uptrend right there. We're probably coming back to the trend line, but you could go higher from right there. So just wait. I don't think you want to go long there, but I don't think you want to go short either. So just wait, and it comes all the way back to the trend line, and you get a second entry long on a very tiny bar. I think there's 4 or 5 ticks in that bar. And it's not the greatest bar. It is bullish, but it's so small, and it's, like I said, you got a new swing high here because it's higher than that one. So first entry and then second entry, it's at the key entry point. It's a little bit of room back to the EMA. It's a decent signal bar. It's a very small signal bar. And again, you catch an important low and off it goes. There's a higher low here, very neutral bar. Don't take that. Then you push through the EMA and pull back and make a double test of it. And I basically treated that, when this went higher, that's a failed second entry short as well, because that's a second entry short there. So you get a failed second entry short, but also a double test of that EMA and off this trend line. It's at the very high of the day, so but this is a strong trend, and it's at a key. You got the trend line, you got the EMA, you got a double test, you got a super strong signal bar, failed second entry short. You may take that trade, and off it goes. And you're expecting prices to come up here. And this is why you don't try to pick these tops, because it looked good right here, and you still would have got probably stopped out. So wait until you see that double top or something, and maybe some kind of little trap. But notice here you got a new low, and you get a first entry. So now you got a second entry short with a big bearish bar, and you've bounced off that high a few times. Still room back to the EMA. And now look at it go. Boom. And look at that signal bar. Very bearish signal bar. And it runs down, come back. There's a lower high here. You don't want to enter right there into that trend line. Pushes on down. You might have considered going long here. That's a second entry, but it's really kind of an up-down bar. It's matching lows. It is an inside bar. It's a second entry. It's a little ways away from the EMA, but I think you should wait on the higher low. And by the time that comes, you're right back into the EMA, and it's not very far to you're turning down again. And draw that trend line just in case. And if you pull it down to here, it fits, and you can see the midline working in there. And when it comes back and makes that lower high and a big bearish bar, go short right there. It takes it a minute. There's actually a failed second entry long right here, but it actually broke lower first. So before it broke higher right there, and so we saw one of these yesterday. You would have gotten stopped out taking that, and you can see it looks a little congestive across there. So I don't like taking it. Same thing here. It still looks like congestion, but when it finally gets back to the trend line and you get a second entry short right there, and now it's finally kind of looking like it's going lower, I like going short right there. You might have entered there. I probably could have marked that one green. I didn't, but you could argue for that one to be green. But when it makes this lower high here and a second entry short, and it confirms that key entry point, really you confirmed it right here, but now you just confirm it 2 more times, and so it's pretty obvious. And look at it go, and that takes you in the 2 o'clock hour. So that's all I saw. So much easier day today, much more readable. We still turned a lot here. You're up, you're down, but you got clear trends that are easy to see and spot, and fairly easy to follow. And so a little easier day. But I did want to talk about this. There was some talk on the forum about these engulfing bars on these failures, and we've seen a couple of these lately where it breaks. I think it breaks lower there before it breaks higher. but it does break higher here. So when it breaks lower there, it's a failed second entry long. But if you went short right there, you got stopped out by one tick, only to watch it go lower. It actually would have come back and stopped you out again here, even if you'd waited on that bar. Of course, you might have scalped out of it on that one. So you got to, when you start to see these kind of bars, be a little careful about these, because we've seen a couple of these lately today, last couple of days, and I actually think there was another one back over here that was a failure that would have trapped you. I can't remember where it was, but I've seen a couple of them in the last few days. So be careful with those. I mean, generally I like those engulfing bars because they trap people. But if you're using the engulfing bar on a trap, ask yourself who's getting trapped, and kind of pay attention to it. And you might skip it. So because the engulfing bar generally doesn't, you generally don't see those on a failure. Well, I take that back, because you do see those sometimes. But if it's at a turning point like this, I'd probably skip it, because you can tell what's going on here is they're trapping a lot of people still trying to get long here, looking for maybe a retest, or just still thinking the trend's going on, but it's not. It's more of a range day, and this turns out to be a move outside. Now we're just coming lower. So I'm sure that maybe has a little bit to play in it. But I'm 26 minutes here, so I'm going to wrap it up. Don't forget, if you're interested in the $100 discount from NinjaTrader, send me the email with your name and email address. And when I've got 5, I'll respond back to you if we don't get enough people. I would think we could find 5 people that want to join, but so far we've only got 2 or 3 names, so we need some more. And this is open to anybody. Doesn't matter whether you're part of our group or not. I'm offering this to our viewers as well. And so it's a chance to get $100 off a lifetime multi-broker license from NinjaTrader. So send me your email and name if you're interested. And again, don't send it to me if you're just thinking about it or whatever. I've only got a couple of days to get this in, and I need people that are going to commit and actually do it. So if you send me your name, please plan on committing to it, so we don't mess everybody up. And I don't send in 5 people just to make myself look bad and not have 5 people. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.